What if the very first thought you allow into your mind each morning is quietly deciding the level of success, respect, and confidence you will experience for the rest of your life? What if mentally strong people are not stronger because of talent, luck, or intelligence, but because of one invisible decision they make before anyone else even opens their eyes? Here is the truth that most people will never admit. The battle for your future is won or lost in the first 5 minutes after you wake up, before the phone, before the noise, before the world starts making demands. Mentally strong people do something different in that moment, and it changes everything. Most people wake up and immediately surrender. They check messages, they scroll, they compare, they react, they let the world tell them who they need to be today. And without realizing it, they begin the day in defense mode. But mentally strong people, they refuse to react, they choose to lead. The first thing they do is take control of their mindset, not in a loud, dramatic way, not with fake positivity, but with a deliberate pause, a conscious decision. They ask themselves a powerful question: who do I choose to be today? That question shifts everything. Because when you ask who you choose to be, you move from circumstance to responsibility. You move from reaction to intention. You stop being pushed by the day and start pulling the day toward you. Mental strength is not about ignoring fear. It is about acknowledging it and still deciding your identity. It is about saying, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I'm uncertain. But I still choose to show up disciplined. I still choose courage. I still choose patience. And here is what most people misunderstand. Motivation is unreliable. You will not wake up inspired every day. You will not feel confident every day. Mentally strong people do not wait to feel ready. They act into readiness. When you decide who you are before the world speaks to you, you create internal stability. You become less dependent on praise, less shaken by criticism, less distracted by comparison. The morning becomes your training ground. It is in that quiet space, before the noise, that you build authority over your own mind. And once you control the mind, you control the direction of your life. The problem is not that you lack discipline. The problem is that you start your day unconsciously. You wake up and immediately allow external forces to shape your internal state. Notifications, headlines, opinions, expectations. They rush into your mind before you've even taken a full breath. And once your mind is crowded, it becomes weak. Mentally strong people understand something simple but powerful: attention is power. Whatever you give your attention to first owns you for the rest of the day. If you give your attention to fear, you will move in fear. If you give your attention to comparison, you will move in insecurity. If you give your attention to purpose, you will move in confidence. That is why the first act of mental strength each morning is protecting attention. They don't reach for the phone, they reach for awareness. They sit up, they breathe, they allow silence. Not because silence is comfortable, but because silence reveals truth. In silence, excuses become obvious. In silence, responsibility becomes clear. In silence, you confront yourself before the world does. Most people avoid that moment because it feels uncomfortable. The mind wants distraction, it wants stimulation, it wants noise to avoid self-reflection. But mentally strong people lean into that discomfort. They understand that growth does not happen in distraction, it happens in deliberate stillness. When you pause in the morning and observe your thoughts without judgment, something powerful happens. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of them. Fear may appear, doubt may speak, anxiety may whisper, but you are not obligated to obey. That separation is freedom. Once you realize you can observe your thoughts, you can choose which ones deserve action. You stop reacting automatically. You stop being controlled by old patterns. You start responding intentionally. And that is leadership. Not leadership of others first, leadership of self. You cannot lead a team, a family, or a vision if you cannot lead your own mind in the first 5 minutes of your day. Strength begins internally. It begins quietly. It begins before anyone sees you. Protect your attention in the morning, and you protect your direction in life. There is a story I want you to think about. Imagine two people waking up at the same time. Same city, same opportunities, same number of hours in the day. One reaches for the phone and immediately sees messages, problems, expectations. Their heart rate rises. Their mind starts racing. They're already behind, already reacting, already feeling pressure. The other person wakes up and does something radically simple. They sit still for a moment and ask, what matters most today? Just that question. Nothing dramatic, no complicated routine, just clarity. By the end of the year, those two lives will look completely different. Not because one worked longer hours, not because one was smarter, but because one operated from clarity and the other operated from chaos. Mentally strong people understand that clarity is power. When you are clear, you waste less energy. When you are clear, you make fewer emotional decisions. When you are clear, you stop chasing everything and start focusing on what truly moves the needle. Most people confuse movement with progress. They stay busy, they answer emails, they attend meetings, they check boxes. But they never pause to ask if those actions align with what actually matters. The first thing mentally strong people do in the morning is define priority before activity. They choose the one action that, if completed, would make the day meaningful. Not the easiest task. Not the most urgent distraction. The most important. That decision requires courage. Because focusing on what matters means ignoring what doesn't. It means saying no. It means accepting that you cannot do everything. And that can feel uncomfortable, especially in a world that rewards constant availability. But here's the truth. If you do not decide your priority, someone else will. And their priority will rarely align with your long-term growth. When you begin your day by identifying what truly matters, you create momentum in the right direction. You build confidence through completion. You prove to yourself that you can execute on what counts. And confidence through action is real confidence. Not loud, not arrogant, but steady, reliable. Strong. Clarity in the morning becomes power in the afternoon and peace at night. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Your mornings are not just about productivity. They are about identity. Every single morning, you are either reinforcing the person you want to become or strengthening the habits of the person you are trying to outgrow. There is no neutral. There is no pause. You are always becoming someone. Mentally strong people understand that identity is built through small, repeated decisions. And the first decision of the day carries enormous weight. When you choose discipline before comfort, you are telling yourself, I am disciplined. When you choose focus before distraction, you are telling yourself, I am focused. When you choose responsibility before excuses, you are telling yourself, I am responsible. These messages might feel invisible, but they are powerful because your brain believes what you consistently show it, not what you say, not what you post, not what you promise, what you do. Think about it. If every morning you hit snooze 5 times, rush out of bed, and start reacting to notifications, you are training your mind to believe that you lack control, that you are behind, that you are chasing. And when you believe that, you behave accordingly for the rest of the day. But if you wake up and immediately sit up with intention, even when you are tired, you are proving something to yourself. You are building self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of mental strength. Most people are not weak because of failure. They are weak because they do not trust themselves. They have broken too many small promises. I'll wake up early. I'll start tomorrow. I'll focus. And when tomorrow comes, they don't. Over time, the mind stops believing its own commitments. Mentally strong people protect that trust. They keep small promises in the morning. They move their body. They write their priority. They breathe intentionally. Small wins, but consistent wins. And here is what happens. Each small kept promise sends a message to your nervous system. I can rely on myself. When you trust yourself, fear loses its power. Doubt becomes quieter. External criticism matters less. Because the strongest confidence is not built from applause. It is built from self-respect. Here is where it goes deeper. Mental strength is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse to do. And the first refusal of the day is often the most powerful. Mentally strong people refuse to start their morning in emotional debt. Most people wake up already overwhelmed because they mentally borrow stress from the future. They think about everything that could go wrong. Every conversation, every responsibility, every possible failure. Before the day even begins, they are exhausted. Mentally strong people interrupt that pattern immediately. They ground themselves in what is real, right now. This breath, this moment, this morning. They understand that anxiety lives in the future and regret lives in the past, but strength lives only in the present. So instead of asking, what do I have to deal with today? They ask, what is within my control right now? That question is grounding, because control creates calm. You cannot control outcomes. You cannot control other people's reactions. You cannot control the uncertainty of the world. But you can control your preparation, your effort, your attitude, your integrity. And when you focus on those things first thing in the morning, your nervous system stabilizes. This is why mentally strong people do not seek comfort in the morning. They seek alignment. Comfort numbs. Alignment strengthens. Comfort avoids reality. Alignment confronts it. They remind themselves of their standards, not goals. Standards. Goals can be postponed. Standards are lived daily. This is how I speak. This is how I show up. This is how I handle pressure. Standards remove decision fatigue. You don't negotiate with yourself all day. You don't ask, should I do the right thing? You already decided who you are. And here is something important. Mental strength is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not need validation. It shows up early when no one is watching. That is why mornings matter so much. No audience, no applause. Just you and your choices. When you start the day grounded, aligned and intentional, pressure does not disappear. But you handle it differently. You listen more. You react less. You choose your words carefully. You move with purpose instead of panic. Over time, people will notice something about you. They won't be able to name it, but they will feel it. Calm, clarity, presence, authority. And it all started with one quiet decision in the morning to stay present, to stay aligned, and to lead yourself before trying to lead the day. Let me challenge you with something uncomfortable. Most people say they want confidence. They say they want influence. They say they want respect, but very few are willing to earn it in private. Mental strength is built in moments that look insignificant. And one of the most powerful moments is when you feel resistance first thing in the morning. That voice that says, stay in bed. That whisper that says, skip it today. That temptation to delay discipline. Mentally strong people do not silence that voice by pretending it doesn't exist. They acknowledge it. And then they move anyway. That is the difference. Confidence is not the absence of resistance. It is the decision to act despite it. Every time you override that small urge to avoid effort, you are strengthening neural pathways of resilience. You are teaching your brain that discomfort is not danger. That effort is safe. That growth is normal. And here is what happens when you repeatedly act in the presence of resistance. You start to detach your identity from your emotions. You stop saying, I don't feel like it, as if feelings are commands. You realize feelings are temporary signals, not permanent instructions. This shift is powerful because once you understand that emotions fluctuate but standards remain, you become stable. You stop riding the roller coaster of mood. You become dependable. Dependability builds trust with yourself and with others. Think about leaders you respect. They are not perfect. They are not always energetic, but they are consistent. They show up even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. The morning is your first opportunity to practice that consistency when you choose the hard thing early. Whether it's exercise, reflection, planning, or deep work, you build momentum. Hard choices made early make the rest of the day easier. Easy choices made early make the rest of the day harder. It is a simple equation, but most people ignore it. Mentally strong people flip the script. They front low discipline. They handle the uncomfortable task before the comfortable one. They create a small win that requires effort. And that effort sends a powerful internal message. I can handle difficulty. Once your mind believes that, challenges throughout the day lose their intimidation. You have already proven your strength before breakfast. There is another layer to this that most people never consider. The first thing mentally strong people do in the morning is not just about action. It is about meaning. You can wake up early. You can exercise. You can plan your day. But if you do those things without meaning, you will eventually burn out. Discipline without purpose feels like punishment. Discipline with purpose feels like service. Mentally strong people connect their morning to something bigger than themselves. Before they move into tasks, they reconnect with why those tasks matter. They remind themselves who benefits when they show up fully. Their family, their team, their clients, their future self. When you remember that your effort serves something beyond your comfort, you unlock a different level of energy. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing? And start asking, what does the mission require? That shift changes everything. Because feelings fluctuate, but purpose sustains. When your alarm goes off and you are tired, purpose whispers, get up. When doubt creeps in, purpose reminds you of the people counting on you. When fear tries to shrink you, purpose expands your perspective. Most people wake up thinking about their problems. Mentally strong people wake up thinking about their responsibility. Responsibility is not pressure. It is privilege. It means you matter. It means your actions have impact. And here is what happens psychologically when you anchor your morning in purpose. Your brain shifts from self-protection to contribution. Instead of scanning for threats, it scans for opportunities to add value. Instead of focusing on how hard the day might be, it focuses on how meaningful it can be. Meaning reduces anxiety. When you know why you are doing something, you tolerate discomfort more easily. You endure setbacks more calmly. You persist longer than others. The most resilient people are not the ones who feel the least fear. They are the ones who care about something more than their fear. So in the quiet of the morning, before the noise begins, mentally strong people ask themselves a powerful question. Who do I serve today? That question transforms ordinary effort into intentional leadership. And when your day begins with service instead of self, your influence grows naturally. Not because you demand respect, but because you earn it through purpose-driven action. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where real transformation begins. Mentally strong people use the first minutes of the morning to rehearse pressure before pressure arrives. Most people wait until stress shows up to decide how they will respond. By then, it is too late. Emotions are high, ego is triggered. Fear is activated, reaction takes over. But mentally strong people prepare their response in advance. In the quiet of the morning, they visualize the difficult conversation. They imagine the unexpected obstacle. They anticipate the criticism, the delay, the tension, not to scare themselves, but to train themselves. This is mental rehearsal, and it is powerful. When you visualize yourself handling pressure calmly, your brain builds familiarity. It reduces the shock factor when the situation actually happens. Instead of reacting impulsively, you recognize the moment. You think, I've been here before. And that recognition creates control. Athletes do this. Elite performers do this. They don't just practice when everything is easy. They practice the hard scenarios, the missed shot, the last-minute decision, the high-stakes presentation. Mentally strong people apply that same principle to daily life. They ask themselves, if today becomes challenging, who will I be? Will I become defensive? Or will I stay curious? Will I blame? Or will I take ownership? Will I withdraw? Or will I lean in? By deciding your response ahead of time, you eliminate hesitation. You reduce emotional volatility. You protect your integrity. And here is why this matters. Under pressure, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your training. If your morning contains no intentional training, your reactions will default to habit. But if your morning includes rehearsal, reflection, and commitment, your habits become stronger than your impulses. This is advanced mental strength. It is proactive, not reactive. It does not hope for a good day. It prepares for a hard one. And something fascinating happens when you prepare for difficulty. You stop fearing it. You start respecting it. You understand that challenge is not an interruption of your growth. It is the path to it. So when the unexpected call comes, when the project shifts, when tension rises, you do not panic. You execute calmly, intentionally, confidently. Because you already decided in the quiet of the morning who you would be when tested. There is one more truth about mentally strong people that most will never tell you. They do not wake up powerful, they create power. Power is not something you inherit. It is something you generate through alignment between thought, word, and action. And the morning is where that alignment is either established or destroyed. Most people live in internal conflict. They think one thing, say another, and do something completely different. They say they value health, but skip movement. They say they value growth, but avoid learning. They say they value leadership, but avoid responsibility. That misalignment drains energy. It creates guilt. It weakens identity. Mentally strong people close that gap immediately in the morning. They ask themselves, what did I say matters to me? And then they act on it before noon. This is integrity in action. When your actions match your values early in the day, you feel centered, you feel clear, you feel strong, not because everything is easy, but because you are not divided inside. There is no argument between who you want to be and what you are doing. And internal unity is powerful. Imagine walking into a difficult meeting already knowing you honored your standards that morning. You exercised when you said you would. You prepared when you promised you would. You reflected instead of reacting. There is a quiet confidence that comes from that, not loud, not aggressive, just steady. That steadiness influences rooms. People sense it, they trust it, because consistency signals reliability. Most people try to perform confidence in public. Mentally strong people build it in private. They understand that public strength is a reflection of private discipline. And here is the part that changes everything. When you consistently align your mornings with your values, you reduce self-doubt. Doubt thrives when you break promises to yourself. But when you repeatedly prove your reliability, doubt loses credibility. Over time, you begin to trust your decisions more. You hesitate less. You speak more clearly. You move with intention instead of approval seeking. The world does not respond to what you claim. It responds to what you consistently demonstrate. And demonstration begins before sunrise. The first decision of your day is not about productivity. It is about alignment. When thought, word, and action move in the same direction, you become powerful. Not because you control everything around you, but because you control what is within you. Here's the final layer, the one that separates ordinary effort from unstoppable momentum. Mentally strong people do not just act in the morning. They reflect, refine, and recharge. They understand that energy, clarity, and resilience are not unlimited. They must be cultivated deliberately. After taking control of mindset, setting priorities, and aligning actions with values, they pause to recharge their inner resources. This is not laziness. This is strategy. This is preparing for the inevitable challenges that will arrive later in the day. Reflection allows them to see what is working and what is not. They ask themselves, where am I resisting growth? Where am I reacting instead of choosing? Where am I holding back? They do not judge, they observe. And then they plan. Mentally strong people know that without reflection, action becomes blind repetition. Without refinement, effort can become wasted energy. Without recharge, resilience erodes. They also protect their energy. They refuse to start the day giving attention to things that drain them unnecessarily. Gossip, fear, negative news, meaningless comparison. These are all consciously avoided in the first moments of waking, because they know whatever enters your mind first sets the tone for the entire day. And here is the advanced truth. Consistency compounds faster than intensity. One morning of alignment, clarity, and reflection changes little, but repeated daily, it transforms identity. It rewires the brain. It trains the nervous system. It builds mental strength that is automatic, reliable, and unshakable. That is why mentally strong people are not impressive because of one action, one speech, or one day of effort. They are impressive because of the ritual they follow before the world demands anything of them. Their strength is quiet, invisible, unassailable. By the end of the day, challenges will come. Obstacles will appear. Emotions will surge. But because they invested in themselves first, in control, clarity, priority, integrity, rehearsal, and reflection, they face everything with calm, confidence, and intentionality. Your morning sets the trajectory of your life. Your first thoughts, first breaths, and first actions decide who you become, how you respond, and what you attract. So today, before you scroll, before you react, before the world tells you who to be, pause, breathe, choose. Decide who you will be. Act with clarity. Protect your energy. Align with your values. Rehearse for pressure. Reflect on purpose. Do this consistently and the world will notice, not because you demand it, but because the energy you carry, the focus you maintain, and the calm authority you demonstrate cannot be ignored. Mentally strong people do this first, and everything else follows.